MCHugh is president of ShopX, a Web3 e-commerce platform, and co-founder and chief growth officer of dating.io, a dating and AI-powered matchmaking app. In this episode, we discuss spirituality and meditation, the importance of purpose in business, and his business, ShopX, and its benefits. We also talk about the role of Web3 and crypto in business, as well as what could lead to crypto mass adoption. Eric also talks about the pros and cons of venture funding versus bootstrapping, what it's like to run two businesses simultaneously, and the power of networking and authenticity when doing business.
I went to school at the University of California, Irvine, and I studied business and psychology. During that time, I did a couple of internships. One was in Barcelona as a project manager, and one was in Washington, D.C. as a government affairs consulting internship. So that's funny just because how those two are completely opposite in terms of work culture. Like Barcelona, you show up at 10, you're the first one there in sandals. DC, you have to take a full suit and tie, be there by 8, take the metro, your back is just completely just wet because it's a swamp. So the dark matter research was more so because I'm fortunate my brother's really smart. He went to Carnegie Mellon University in the United States, which is a really well-known it's a science school in Pittsburgh. So he went there for his undergrad, and his team was trying to research dark matter, and they needed someone on the business side to do some of the writing and all that stuff, just kind of finalize the reports, get that going. So for me, it was honestly a super fun experience because I gotta hang out with their team. They're smart, and we just gotta play around with some super telescopes and supercomputers, because when you're trying to map out the universe, it's all based on predictions. So we use one called Illustris, which is kind of where do they think this star is going to be? Where do you think this is going to be? What's in between there? And the whole nothingness is what dark matter is, and it's something we're all really just trying to figure out what it is or what it does. Now that I've gone to the spirituality thing, I think it's the void, it's the nothing. I think it's access to the universe, but that's I don't think they corroborate that approach to thinking about it.
Okay. And so you mentioned that kind of spirituality side of things. When did you get into the say, spiritual side of life? When did that kind of click for you, or what was the kind of thing that pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, so it's one of those things. It really is when the student is ready, the teacher appears itself. So I've always been somewhat interested in that stuff for a while. A couple of years ago when COVID started, that's when I first, because I read pretty much anything I get my hands on. So a couple of years ago, or right before COVID started, that's when I got my first dose of spirituality, which was a book called Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. And that's just basically the conscious level of us humans, what's happening on the planet, how we can be beneficial to others. So after that was the first official dive. And then you start kind of looking into it. You start listening to some of his podcasts. The algorithm takes over from there. You listen to some more content of that genre. Okay, this is interesting. There's a reason I'm being shown this now. Let's try to incorporate this into real life. But it really took an exponential, jump when I went to a meditation retreat this past September. So I went to a 10-day full noble silence retreat in Joshua Tree, California. It's a method called Vipassana meditation. So it's the exact method that the Buddha used to reach enlightenment. So it's 10 full days, obviously no phone, no writing, no talking, no looking at anyone. You just have your meditation hall, your room, and a dining hall and a walking path, and you just kind of meditate the whole day. You wake up at 4, start, eat, back to meditating, eat lunch, back to meditating, meditate for the rest of the day, have a discourse at night, and you go to sleep. So the way it works is you spend the first 3 days focusing on your natural breathing in the area of your nostril. And so after doing that for so long, you start to feel different sensations in that area. And once you get good enough to do that, or good enough is probably the wrong way to put that, but once you're able to feel different sensations in your nostrils just because you're focused on it, you just take that and you scan your body back and forth, picking up different sensations in the body. So what that's doing is extracting the traumas that you stored out in your body throughout your whole life, and they come to the surface in the form of different sensations. It could be a tingling, it could be heat, it could be pain, it could be really whatever, depending on the type of trauma. So the reason this works is if you're a scientist and you really wanted to get let's say Sam, you're a scientist, you're building a rocket, in that situation, you need the piece of metal you're using to be 100% pure. What you would do is you'd run that piece of metal through magnets, and that would extract the impurities So you're doing that on a spiritual level when you're just scanning your body back and forth. And it's pretty cool because after a while, like, because your eyes are closed the whole time, like and meditating sitting still for an hour can be kind of challenging, but you really start to feel the energy just free flowing through your body. Like you get like after a while, like you just become like, I would say, like right now we're all particles, we're just kind of like thinking, but you become like, I don't know, it's weird. It's become like wavy where it's like I'm gonna send energy to my left finger, I'm gonna move that around to my heart, to my leg, and then just like it's a pretty trippy experience. So overall, that's been one of the best, most transformative experiences I've ever experienced. And the center itself is free. The Impasta meditation, look it up if you so choose. It's free. There's plenty of centers around the world, and again, completely free. So worth a shot.
Yeah, I mean, one of my previous guests, one of my earliest guests actually, he did the same thing. He went on, I think it was like a 10-day or 2-week
Yeah.
type of retreat like this, like a silent meditation retreat. And it completely changed his worldview, completely changed him as a person. And he actually started up a business around the idea of, well, what he felt the most, which was not having your phone. He started up this thing called Unplugged dot rest or whatever it is, which is like these cabins in the woods. I actually stayed in one last year. Genuinely, that changed my life. The simple thing of not having a phone, it was very freeing almost. But like, I'm so glad that for you got this transformative effect out of doing the meditation. And I'm wondering for you, how did this change you as a business person? Like, what were you doing business wise before, and then what were you doing after doing this type of thing or getting into this type of spiritual movement? Like, did you change businesses completely, or did you just change life direction completely? Because a lot of people end up being like, no shoes wearing, can't commit to a schedule after these types of things, like completely away with the fairies.
Yes. I mean, I do like the no shoes. I do like the ground. Like I love Mother Nature. So if I'm in the park, I'll take off my shoes and touch the grass. It is kind of like, could be kind of cringe to talk about, but I do find it helpful. In terms of businesses, I was already kind of following my intellectual curiosity and just be authentic self. So the businesses I was still working on didn't change. I was still working on ShopX and dating at the time. But overall, in terms of benefits, it's amplified my why as to why I do business. So I do business to overall spread as much positivity as I can. I look at both companies as a vehicle in different ways to spread positivity. And to get more, I guess, granular, I have two goals. I think everyone has two goals: their inner purpose and the outer purpose. So your inner purpose, I think we're all the same, and that's to raise our level of consciousness. So I think of everything in terms of frequency and vibrations. Each emotional state you have, like fear, anger, blah blah blah, like there's a numerical number that's attached to that. So that's the emotional frequency, like anger, fear, and all that stuff is around 200, and like love, joy, and those positive emotions are around 500. So I think everyone's inner purpose, whether they realize it or not, is to raise their own frequency, to go from like anger, hate, to just a feeling of like pure love, pure joy. So that's my inner purpose. And if I raise my own frequency, which is part of the reason I like going on podcasts, because you can tell when I think positivity and negativity are contagious. Like if you talk with the positive, and you're just like, that was pleasant. That means they're above 200. But this, at the flip side, if you talk with a negative person, you're just like, oh, that's kind of draining. That kind of sucked. It's like you can feel it. So if you raise your own level of consciousness, that raises everyone else's, and I think that's how we move forward as a society. So that's the inner purpose, and then outer purpose is just an extension of that. And those are the two businesses, which are ShopX and Dating AI.
Yeah, and I've been trying to get people to understand the importance of having a purpose in their business. Like an episode I just dropped recently was about finding your purpose, finding your why in business, and you perfectly just described that. And so I'm kind of wondering as well, because we as listeners have no idea what ShopX is. Can you talk to us about what ShopX is and maybe how and why we should be using ShopX?
Yeah, sure. So, and I'll throw in the why too, just because I think the why and the purpose is very important for any subject. So, ShopX, I want you to think the Google or Apple Web3. Long term, going to be a suite of products for an e-commerce brand to download an app and enter the Web3 space. My overall purpose for that, or why behind that, is I would like to live a nice, peaceful life. I find that harder to do if the money system was corrupt. And that originally led me to Bitcoin and gold, silver to hopefully fix that or remedy that problem. And ShopX is a way for me to do that at scale. So for example, if ShopX were to onboard a major brand like Nike or Fox, they use ShopX products or services, launch a Web3 or NFT collection for their customers, they onboard 1 million customers. That's a 0 to 1 moment at scale, which is much more effective than me like onboarding my friends or my family over like 3 to 5 Thanksgiving, Christmas dinners. So yeah, about ShopX, it's gonna be like the Google Apple Web3. Everything is powered by the ShopX tokenized software license. So a cool legal fact is our token is the first ever tokenized software license. So if you're a brand, you want to use our products and services, you have to get a certain amount of tokenized software licenses, and it's good enough where it passed the legal scrutiny of like a major brand like Fox. So I think that was some news I was kind of lost in the bear market, where it's like, oh, that's actually a big deal. I think that was a big step forward. Right now, we have two products live. The first is ReserveX, and that's a NFT powered loyalty program for e-commerce brands. So if you're on Shopify or WooCommerce, and Shopify and WooCommerce for your listeners, if you're trying to start an online store, there are four major platforms. Shopify, WooCommerce, Salesforce Commerce, and BigCommerce are probably the big four. So we integrate with Shopify and WooCommerce for an app within their app store. So if you want to launch an NFT program, all you have to do is download from the Shopify App Store the ShopX app, get their appropriate amount of software licenses, and directly within the app, you can launch your own NFT collection without launching a single line of code. So what we've done is like normally if you wanted to launch an NFT collection, you have to hire a developer, you have to do a bunch of stuff. It's expensive, you don't know how it's going to work, and it's just a annoying process. So with our app, you can just go to your Shopify backend, fill out two simple forms like a picture of your NFT, a title, a description, how much you want it to cost, how many passes you want available. You click create, and that'll create an NFT for your e-commerce brand. And what separates the NFT, ShopX ENFTs versus normal NFTs are most NFTs are based on hype, but our NFTs will have e-commerce utility for your customers. So since we already connect with your Shopify store, you can add specific products and specific access for your customers for your products. So for example, if Nike were to launch a gold, silver, bronze style pass, they can program it. Okay, gold pass holders get product A for free. They get early access to product C. They get discounted product D. Silver pass holders they'll get product A that the gold pass holders got for free, but they'll pay like half price. Oh, the bronze pass holders they just get access to that product before everyone else. So you as a brand get to decide your e-commerce benefits. The I would say the main benefit is honestly, in my opinion, most people disagree in marketing. I would say the main benefit is the loyalty or the word of mouth marketing loyalty brand aspect that comes with the NFT. So if a brand launches that NFT, the customer buys that NFT, they feel like they own a portion of the brand. So we've seen brands launch NFT passes and their customers will make that their PFP stuff. So that just generates a bunch of like word of mouth, authentic, just like check this out type of thing, which is harder to track, which is why most people won't agree with me. That's the most important factor. But again, I would say the second most important factor is the customer retention rate. So because the customers already purchased that NFT, they're already bought into the brand, they're really loyal to your brand. So in e-commerce, the name of the game isn't getting that first customer, it's retaining the customer. So oftentimes the customer acquisition cost for an e-commerce brand to get them to buy the first time, it's higher than the profit or revenue that they would make from selling the product. So a lot of times the brand will lose money to get the customer to purchase that product once. So it's not about getting that customer. They have to just get them coming back to the store over and over again, which is where the NFT ownership aspect of Web3 technology is it's really empowering for brands. And this leads into our second product. So as a brand, you're launching an NFT product, you launch the pass, you get to deploy in the you get to decide who gets paid when a customer purchases your pass. So you have control over 95% of those funds. So hypothetically, if you're working like an influencer, you can program in their wallet so they sell the product for you. If you're working with an e-commerce agency, they all do the marketing for you. You can just program in their wallet so everyone just gets paid like authentically and like automatically on the blockchain. So it's pretty verifiable because like as soon as the customer makes that purchase, everyone gets paid. Their wallets get the Ethereum. They're happy. ShopX earns our revenue from that additional 5%. So if Nike were to sell one pass for $100, it's a Kobe Bryant pass just because RIP Kobe, favorite basketball player. But let's say they sell one pass for $100, Kobe gets 20%. That upon that pass sale, Nike would automatically get $70. Kobe's wall will get his $20. ShopX earns $5. And this leads into our second product, which is SquadX. So that's the first ever blockchain-based ambassador program. So just like Twitter pays their creators from their ad revenue, we pay our community for helping our ecosystem grow from Reserve X revenue. So in that example, we made $5. We share half of that with our community. So the community as a collective would make $2.5. I know it doesn't seem much, but the logic behind this program is A, it's much better to give than receive. Like if you ever give out $20 versus asking for $20, you'll know in your heart which one just is more pleasant. But so it's better to give and receive. And this, again, I believe in energy. So this creates a bunch of positive energy around the ShopX brand, creating somewhat of like an upward spiral effect. So as ShopX gets more and more brands, the brands are minting more, selling more and more passes. They're getting happy, and this will greatly accelerate as crypto gets more widely adopted. But brands are minting more and more passes. They're happy. That means ShopX is creating more and more revenue, so we're happy. Then our community in turn is they're getting paid more and more Ethereum, so they're happy. They're posting about this. This is causing them to create organic content, and this is causing them to like spam brand pages. So like they'll go on their Twitter account like, when are you using ShopX? When are you using ShopX? You need to use ShopX for this reason. So this creates more advertising force for us, which generates more and more brands for us, more and more money. So it's a win-win for everyone. And on top of that, it's really helpful for me too, because I can just go on, and this is a sales strategy I like to use. It's like I'll see it, and you can fake this too, because I think people can pick up on just something that's fake, and it's just like blah. But like because we're paying our community, like for example, our community member will like go on like a specific brand, like you guys need to use ShopX for this reason. Here's the case. Like they'll give all the materials for us. So like they'll give the case study, they'll give like reviews, they'll do everything. And then what I would do from there is I'll just copy the tweet. I'll go to the brand's LinkedIn page and I'm just like, hey, I can help you out with this. Do you want to chat? And a lot of times it responds. So it creates that groundswell effect where it's like, how do you get a brand to move? A lot of people, you can go to the top, but then they have to go down and figure everything. But if enough of the customers really demand something from their brand, that's called groundswell, and that's how you get the brands to move forward.
And how did you start out with ShopX? Did you raise money? Did you bootstrap? Because that is something that a lot of listeners of the show are really interested in, is about, where to get started and how to get started. And I obviously, step one is the idea. Step two is maybe building something by yourself. But, once you want to get to scale, do you scale bootstraps or do you scale with venture money? I'm wondering how you managed to do it with ShopX.
Yeah, so again, we're in a very particular specific situation. So we have our tokenized software licenses. So we did a license sale, and then the authorized resellers purchased the license, and whatever they wanted to do was after that. In the future, we're thinking we may, because we were able to use those funds to create traction, get like major brands like Fox build integrations. And if we wanted to raise an actual round, the time for us to do that would probably be a year and a half when the crypto market's frothy. Just because if you're involved with VCs, they just kind of follow the trends. And once one person dogpiles it, I'll just like, yeah, it's that type of thing. So raising money in this past bear market was just not going to be ideal, but it will be ideal in the future if we even need that. Me personally, I think I personally just like to keep everything in house. So I wouldn't want to raise money unless I actually needed to. But if and for your listeners, if you do decide to go down the path, and I've dealt with this. This was one of my biggest learning experiences at a previous startup. Is be careful who you take money from. In the VC world, like you're a company, I get that you're just like, oh, it's a new company. I kind of need money. I haven't paid for a while. I need to raise money. Oh, this one VC actually wants to fund me. Let's move right away. Let's take that money. But you're entering a partnership, so if you have to make sure the VC aligns with your mission and goals as a company and actually get along with. Because in a past startup, we took money from a VC. Don't get me wrong, they're a really good VC. They just didn't align. Like they want us to do different things than we wanted to do. And if they have that much on the cap table, it can be kind of destructive. It's like, for example, it's like we wanted to create the product this way, where they're like, no. We'll introduce you to our investors if you hit this KPI, which is the way that they wanted to do things. So it just created unneeded tension.
And giving away a percentage of your company is so like, I don't know, it's so tempting in the beginning to get money, like, in the bank, and like you said, to get paid or to be able to hire the right people to help you get to where you need to go. But it's like you said, sometimes these VCs have no clue what they're investing in. They're just, it's the trendiest thing. They think it should be done a certain way, but the people that are like, on the ground doing the job know that what's going to work is XYZ, or, something that's not exactly what they're saying. So
yeah,
go on.
And on that point with the VC, there are plenty of good VCs. So if your listeners are thinking about going that, the route I would take is a lot of VCs, their biggest mistake is like they just try to kind of boss you around from not being on the ground. So like, do this, do this, do this. We know better than you, and that doesn't work. Whereas a good VC or a good like a lead investor, that type of person, they should be a neutral source to bounce ideas off of and give suggestions. Whether you as a company want to follow through on the suggestions, it's your company, your decision, fall on your own sword type of thing versus you have to do things this way.
And so you are the president and co-founder of ShopX, but you also have another business which is pronounced dating, but it's spelled weird. It's like data, but then it's AI, NG type thing. So talk to me about what it's like to be, you know, running two businesses at the same time, and two businesses that I assume have, you know, I don't know if it's a lot of employees, but they have employees, they have, you know, systems and processes. How do you balance your time between the two?
Yeah, and again, I prefer to keep teams as lean as possible. So I would say less than 10 is ideal, but really it's around like 5 to like 7 core members. And if you can outsource like different teams for like different dev work or different marketing and just have one person in charge. Like for example, ShopX, when we do like a project, like let's say we're doing the WooCommerce build out, we had one of our devs take project manager role and then manage a dev studio type of thing. So I find that's the most effective way to do things. And dating and ShopX are somewhat related. So I met the CEO and co-founder that way. So I was on a podcast tour about ShopX like a year and a half ago. And it was actually his crypto podcast. After the podcast, we kept in touch, like hopefully we'll do. We just followed each other on Instagram, would send each other memes, send each other reels, all that stuff. And eventually this data IEing company followed me. I'm just like, what is this? So we got on the phone and described the idea. I thought it was pretty funny and could work really well. So we've just been kind of working on that simultaneously. For me, working on two different companies, I think it's good for my mindset. So I have my set morning routine, my set night routine. And in the day, it's just kind of a free flowing, different whatever needs to be done just gets done. And the way I read books is I'll have like 5 to 10 books. I'm just like upload on the Kindle. I'll read one, I'll get bored of it. I'll jump to immediate another one. So with the startup world and two different companies, it's just I'm doing one task. Okay, to do another task. Okay, it's for this company. Switch it up. So I just have a color coding system for I kind of live by the calendar. So I have a color coding system. I just need to know which company it's for, and then I can adjust and accomplish the task based on which company it's for. But I think I do have probably slight ADHD. So in that sense, it's like, oh, nice. I get to do a bunch of things. You get to learn a lot. I like just jumping around.
Yeah. And data AI, is that bootstrapped as well, or is that venture backed, or how's that one kind of working?
So that one's actually very fortunate. So it's going to go live February 14th. Our initial plan was to rush the software, get that pushed to get the users to raise an actual round, because if you're trying to raise money, you need actual users. So that was the original plan. But then one of the persons who's either going to lead or be heavy in the round, he liked the idea so much, he's going to come in as an advisor and help fund the beginning stages to get the users. And then in the near future, we're probably going to go for a Series A. So we have our, which is cool because we kind of already started the round. So we've already been talking to people. They're already aware of the ideas. So they're in the loop. So they're going to see the updates. But then someone came in early. It's like, oh, we can just give you money now and we'll advise. So we know who to talk to once we're ready for the round, which is cool. So that one will be more of a traditional VC, use the money to expand and grow rapidly type of thing.
Oh, okay. And something that I'm seeing here, like a common thread here, is that you're, whether it's conscious or unconscious, you're very good at networking. You're very good at kind of meeting the right people to get you to the next step. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's the universe just providing people, like it's just the universe taking care of me. And overall, again, I believe in the whole frequency, vibration, energy thing. So I think like attracts like. And if you think of it like a radio frequency, like if you're attuned to a certain radio frequency, you're going to go to that radio station regardless. So I think the same thing happens with emotions, positivity, and just outlook on life. So if you're negative, that's why negative people are always around negative people for some reason. If you're positive, you're always around positive people for some reason. And the same goes for the entrepreneurial mindset. So I generally just wish people the best type of thing, and I'm pragmatic too. Like I won't do something that doesn't benefit me, but I generally just go around wishing people the best. Like at the gym, like good lift. I won't say it because it's weird, but same thing with talking with other people. So because I'm wishing people the best, people wish me the best, and then the right people just simply, they always seem to fall into place. I don't know why.
Okay, so like living in your purpose or living in that right energy is kind of bringing you the right people, bring you into the right environments, and it's something that you hear a lot of celebrities say. Actually, it's something you hear a lot of celebrities or a lot of other like rich and famous people say. It's like, oh, once I started following my purpose, everything fell into place. Is that kind of how it worked for you, or was it a
Yeah.
kind of retrospective thing? You saw, oh, I've been living in my purpose type thing.
It's not like I planned. It's not like I'm like, I'm gonna live my purpose today. That's gonna attract the right type of people. It's just you kind of live it, and then like you kind of just mentioned it, where it's like I haven't really thought about it. I'm like, oh, everything did like the right people do come into the right time and place. So I think people do pick up on authenticity too, so that obviously helps. But yeah, the way I look at it, and it's more spiritual, is I think the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, they gave everyone very specific individual gifts. So everyone has gifts that they can give to the world, and the best way for it to be happy is to serve people, and the best way for me to serve people, the best way for you to serve people, is to be authentic to your natural gifts, which are a blessing. And then if you do that, and if you follow the two, my main two rules for creation are first one's be authentic, but the main two are if you're a conscious creator, don't take anything from anyone and don't harm anyone. And if your business is doing both those two things, you're generally in the right path. And then from there, the right people just kind of appear in your life. Or I'd say it's more of like a attraction type thing versus appearing, if anything.
Okay, because I don't know. For me, I've felt this before as well, where it's like when I'm doing the right thing, nothing can go wrong, and then when I'm trying to force a thing, it never quite comes off. Do you know what I mean? Like there was a time about gosh, nearly over a decade ago, where I was buying Bitcoin and farming Bitcoin off my laptop to buy things online. We won't say what things, but you can imagine what things I was buying online.
I know. It's a road, Rich.
A very silky road, shall I say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was doing that back then and it was a great time. And, when I look back and I think, oh my God, I had 50 Bitcoins, 100 Bitcoins, because it was only worth about $1, $2 or a couple cents at the time. And I go to myself, man, if only I had held on to them and done this and done that, I'd be a millionaire now. And it's like, realistically, you were using it back then for this reason. And then once that purpose was gone, do you know what I mean? You had to let it go, because I ended up getting caught up in the whole Sam Bankman-Fried rubbish where I had more crypto. I was like, yeah, I'm going to put all my Ethereum here. I'm going to put all my Bitcoin here, get my nice little 8% here, get some Solana, do this. And I was getting greedy. And like I said, I got caught up in that whole, losing your money, but apparently getting it back through bankruptcy or whatever. We'll see how that one pans out. But I kind of say all that to kind of say this. Your views on Web3, blockchain, crypto, whatever you want to call it, what does that do in regards to your purpose and how you run your business? Because I know you said it's about kind of democratizing things or allowing people to get paid fairly, as well as empowering people to have, repeat customers and that kind of thing. But I just want to hear it kind of from you with that kind of question.
Yeah, and there are two things I want to bring up too. With the Sam Bankman-Fried bankruptcy thing, I used to be a bankruptcy consultant. So when a company goes bankrupt, the consultants work with the courts to divide up the debts. My brother was also involved in that, so I tell him, and I'll tell you, don't hold your breath on that one. So sorry, dude.
Yeah, I'm not hoping to get too much back. I'd be surprised if I get anything back. Just a letter from Bankman saying sorry would be enough at this rate.
No. But and the other thing is, I've also done what you did, and I've also learned whenever I get greedy, that's when I lose everything. So like like you're going through DeFi summer, it's like the 8%, blah blah blah, and then I think those are the balance forces. It's like, hey, you're getting cocky, and then it cuts you down. So my learning experience is I would go on DeFi and chase the like 1,000% like APR yield for me, something like. Yeah, let's then I tell my mom, it's like, hey mom, I'm making a doctor's salary. I'm not doing anything, I'm playing a game. And then it goes to zero, you're just like, sorry, mom.
Yeah.
But in terms of the business perspective, I think it all loops back to the spirituality thing where I do, and don't get me wrong, there's tons of greed and corruption in crypto, like tons, I would say like over 90%. But overall, I do think I think it fixes one of the biggest problems we face as humanity, which is the corrupt money supply. Like, for example, in my country, think about it this way, your money is getting stolen from you every single second of every day to kill people, run by and just enrich the lives of the people in power who are honestly probably into kids and like Satanism and all that whole stuff, which we don't really need to go down. So rather than and their source of power is being close to the money supply, which they use to get more and more power. Like one person gets in, like one bad person gets in, they get access to money. They use that to pay their friends. They get three of their friends in. Now there's three bad people, and those three bad people will beat the three good people because the three bad people will do bad stuff to put their friends ahead. So it really just perverses the entire incentive structure at the base. Like, for example, if you want to get rich in the United States, what's the easiest way to do that without actually producing any value or creating any work? Oh, just be a politician. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi's net worth, or look at like Elizabeth Warren. They're both worth like hundreds of $1 millions. And one of my favorite questions I like to ask is, what's your value add? If I were to ask one of them, what is your value add? Watch them just like word vomit, just some mumbo jumbo spiel that just means absolutely nothing. I'm just like, so that's how you want to, and that's because the incentive is to be close to the money supply versus producing value. Like in Bitcoin, let's say we're in a Bitcoin standard. How do I get more Bitcoin? I have to convince someone voluntarily to give me another Bitcoin. I can't be like, okay, let's print more, and I'll just be close by the printer and I'll hoard it myself and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I have to produce something of value, and hopefully someone sees value in that, and then they would voluntarily give me their Bitcoin. So I think I think that's the main reason why I think Bitcoin will win. So that kind of just ties into everything crypto wise. And again, ShopX is more of an extension of just like, yes, I believe in power. I believe in powerful relationships, not forceful relationships. So forceful relationship is, let's say us two are in a forceful relationship. That means one of us is benefiting and one of us isn't. So that's obviously not sustainable, because eventually the person who's not benefiting is like, I'm over it, I'm out because I'm not benefiting. Whereas a powerful relationship is, we're both benefiting, so we're both going to stay into that. So we try to incorporate that in just whenever we do anything with our business. So we like when we're making our brand products, we're just kind of like SquadX came about. It's like, okay, who are all the players in the ShopX ecosystem? Brands, ShopX team, our community members, brands, customers. So in the ShopX example, the brand wins because they get additional revenue, they get like higher customer retention rate, they get higher conversions, they get like repeat customers, they get word of mouth marketing. Their customers win because they're entering a voluntary system. Like no one can force them to buy the NFT. It's like, okay, I want that product, I want that e-commerce benefit. Let me buy the product, let me buy this and see where it goes. And the secondary benefit is they do enter the crypto ecosystem, whether they know it or not, and if they want to research more, they can. And ShopX wins because we earn revenue and we onboard people on Web3. But then our community also wins because they get paid as well. So it's about creating core systems where everyone wins, which is possible too. I know it's like in the current system, again, problem with the incentive structure is like everyone thinks to like win. Like for example, like law or like politics, how do you win? You take from someone else. Like there has to be a loser. But in like entrepreneurship and technology and developing software, developing business and helping people, there doesn't have to be a loser. You can just increase the size of the pie versus just like fighting over a certain slice.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is right now with crypto? I was at a crypto conference called Zebu Live in London. And I feel like everybody here who's in this space now is here early. That's something we can all, agree on. We're here early and we're working with the tools or building on things that are very, very early. But I think we're too caught up in the weeds of it all. Like if we were to go back, say 20, 30 years ago, there's people talking about all the back end of the internet and how it works and how to make this faster and do this and that. It's like the average person who's not like me and you, who's very nerdy or, into things like that, they just want the thing to work. They want to know what the thing is and make it work. If you were to tell somebody, oh, you could type 120 characters and post it online and then 1 million people can see it, what's that do for the average person? You have to frame it right for them. And I feel like what ShopX is doing is actually framing it right for the brands so they can use it, but as well the user can see like, oh, okay, this is what makes sense for me to use this thing or to be on this ecosystem. And it's not all about ZK roll-ups and all the stuff that's too deep.
I don't need to know about. Yeah, no, it's funny because I'm talking to brands. I try to take out as many. A good call with a brand is the less crypto, the better.
Yeah.
And you've been in crypto for a while, so like I would say the two biggest problems for crypto people, because everyone's like mass adoption, Web3 is sacred of the world, and then you just jump into the crypto space. You're like, why would anyone ever interact with this? Like this tomfoolery. It's like, so the two biggest problems I think ShopX is working on both is the incentives. Like 5 years ago, no one within the crypto, unless you're trying to make money, would have no real reason to enter the crypto space. And the other big issue, and this is the more prevalent one now, is a user interface. Because like imagine this, you're trying to bridge something. Let's say like when I try to bridge something, I try to bridge something to DeFi Kingdom. I send my money off into the ether. It doesn't show up in my other wall, which is on a different chain. And I'm like, okay, who do I call? Okay, there's no one I can call. How do I solve this? And I end up having to go on like Reddit and find some like obscure problem from like a year ago, just from some anonymous like, I'm like, oh, this is how you fix. Imagine sending like your grandma or your mom to that user interface. Like they would just, especially now, because like e-commerce customers are extremely fickle. If it doesn't work, it's like, no, thank you. So ShopX, I think, is working on the incentive structure. And the cool thing is, in our flagship launch with the Mag Park, so I'll give you some backstory. They also like it's a cool shop in LA too. It's like he's like a hometown hero. He has a basketball court in his store. The kids come out and like shoot hoop, and he's always with them. It's that type of thing. So he launched a gold, like a pink mocha, world famous, like tiered pass system for his core customers. And his big issue was he'd launch a hat, like 500 limited availability. Bots would come up and they'd swoop that inventory instantly and then flip it on the secondary market for like 10 times the profit. So he used our NFT solution to 100% block the bots. So not one bot has been able to go through the system. And we've actually even hired a team of botters to say like, hey, break it. They couldn't. But the cool thing about that is of the first launch. So think about it, it's like a bunch of like 20-year-olds, young 30-year-olds, because it's like a hypeware store, like Supreme or Fear of God. His first launch, his pass was 0.75 ETH. So for someone not like in crypto G-Gen world, that's not bad at all. But for someone not in the space, like it's like $1,000. That's still kind of like
a lot of money.
A lot of it's like it's nothing to scoff at. So he was able to sell to 125 passes in less than 24 hours. And my favorite stat from that whole launch was over 50% of the users were 100% brand new to crypto. Because this particular launch, it came with like a limited hat. It's like, okay, buy us, you get the Pink Mocha Dodgers hat. So over 50% of the users were hundreds. They didn't even own ETH. They didn't know what a wallet was. They learned how to use technology because they wanted the e-commerce benefit. And of course, and this is funny just because obviously it's startup world. Nothing ever worked right. So they had to go through the whole QA process as that, but they still, and we've fixed it since then, but they still went through the QA process. They stuck around because the incentive structure was strong enough to keep them around. And now we've learned from that. Their biggest issue was like they buy Ethereum on Coinbase. Like, okay, I have the Ethereum on Coinbase. How do I send it to the guy to get my pass? And then Coinbase is like, well, you have 35 business days to wait, good sir. No Ethereum for you. So now we integrate with Crossman. So if a customer wanted to purchase from a brand, they can pay a credit card.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that definitely needs to kind of, well, I don't know if it needs to be like adopted more by other people, but is the idea of using wallets, digital wallets, because it's, people go, oh, well, I have my online banking, I've got my credit card. It's like, yeah, this is that, but like all in one to a degree. Do you know what I mean? You can put this thing into a website and use it to buy things. You can put this thing into a website and get all your money stolen. You know what I mean? Like people need to have more education around how crypto wallets work, and then they'll be able to kind of know that, oh, okay, I need to have my funds loaded on there to do this and do that. But it's a process, and it's a process of education, I think.
Yeah, and the cool thing is now, and again, I agree that I think digital wallets are the biggest barrier to entry right now. And I think long term it to work, I think this would be a twofold solution. Meaning, like, I think there has to be like a custodial wallet system where like my grandma, I don't think she'll ever have her own MetaMask wallet because she's my grandma.
There's hope.
But like she may,
there's hope.
Yeah. It's like she may need to have like someone who control her keys where she can send stuff and it'll work that way. But again, it's not a crypto because they have control. But then at the same time, there always needs to be the option to withdraw to your own private wallets. I think that works. The cool thing is, and I agree that I think wallets are extremely key just to get as many wallets out there as possible. I think right now the big brands have been playing around for a while. They're like, okay, we think this is the future. And I could tell based on like actual conversations, but like, we personally think this is the future. Like Nike's getting in, not Sephora, but like Tiffany and all those people are getting in. But they're like, okay, we think this is the future, but the customers aren't ready for this. So, and again, ShopX is B2B2C, meaning we can sign all the brands in the world, but if they can't sell the product to their customer, it's dead on arrival. And this has happened when we sold to brands. They made that NFT, they programmed the benefits, they did all that jazz. But this particular one, I think Impact Wrestling, they launched they did their PR release on like Instagram or whatever, right around SBF time. So the sentiment was like an all-time low, and then they got ratioed pretty hard. They're like, we don't want NFTs, they're scams, they're all this. So that killed that project. But because the big brands are in and Web3 is composable, they have the capital and the infrastructure and now the incentive to make Web3 as a whole more usable. So like once Nike goes full in, they incorporate their loyalty programs into like everyday life. They're not going to send their customer base to a shitty user experience, which is what we have to deal with crypto now. And because Nike's getting in, Adidas has to get in, or at least look into it. Reebok has to do the same. So it just creates that gradually then suddenly effect. I think we both heard that phrase before.
I think the listeners got a kind of rough or kind of good idea of what ShopX is. And, you know, we could be here talking about crypto Web3 for the next 2-3 hours, but this is not that type of podcast. But yeah, I mean, it's great that ShopX is out there and that it's, you know, working for people and it's something that people are using. But I'm wondering, how do you do your learning? Because you seem like you know so many things about different things. Like you said, you read quite a lot. What are you reading? What kind of things are you interested in at the moment? You know, what other stuff do you do other than the businesses you work in is what I'm asking essentially.
Yeah, so I would say my main hobbies right now are chess, Muay Thai, reading, meditation, and pretty much anything and physical fitness, like anything under the sun. And those kind of take up a lot of my time. So I've replaced all my mindless time with something I view as positive. So to give you a concrete example of like, I took a tally of my social media, just scrolling. It's like, okay, let me go on my reels. Let's see how many of these just add value. 0%, like very small percentage add value, just complete waste of time.
-%.
Yeah, it was a negative percent. And like if I'll go through, okay, let's go through other stories. Let's see if anyone's stories adds value to my life. And because I found out the stories were either just some like inane thing I couldn't care less about, or something designed to make me jealous. So again, negative percent. So in that particular example, when I have the urge to go on social media, I replaced that with chess. So on my Instagram app, I download chess.com app. I place that right next to my Instagram app. So now when I'm like, let's scroll something or whatever, I'll take that out and I'll play like a quick 3-minute game and just do that instead. So that's a more productive way to do things. In terms of just learning, again, I read a lot and I always have some sort of like informative podcast on the back or podcast or something in the background, just because I view diet as really important. So like your food diet is very important, like health as well. Be aware of like when you eat something, it'll have an effect on it's literally becoming you. So like if you eat food A, how does it affect your next day? There's a relationship for that too. And content is the same way. So content is part of your diet. So if you're programming yourself with bullshit, your life is going to be bullshit. But if you program yourself with positive people, just uplifting experiences, it's going to start reflecting itself. And on that note, if we're thinking about the whole frequency, vibration, all that jazz, so it's a scale from 0 to 1,000. And to give you fear, anger, shame is the lowest emotion you can feel, so that's at 50. Fear, anger, hate, jealousy, those are around 200. So when you're at 200, that's when you're most impressionable as a person to get someone to act. Like think about how would I get someone to, if I needed you to do something, a good way for me to, that was either to get you really angry, get you fearful, get you jealous, and that would cause you to probably make a decision that's not the best for you. So if you think about it from that lens, why do you think all content on social media is being programmed to make people fearful, scared, jealous, or angry? Because that's when the powers that be can control a populace. So that's the reason behind that. But yeah, just honestly, whatever tickles my fancy in terms of YouTube. It could be like, right now it's just a bunch of spiritual stuff. It could be fitness stuff. It could be just authors talking about their stuff. I went through like a whole entrepreneur phase where I'm like, okay, I'll read the autobiographies of all these guys, see what I can get. Because I figured I'm in a very good spot where I can learn from some of the smartest minds in all of human history. Why not do that? And to get a bit more woo, I've also got the ability so a third of my dreams are pretty lucid. So that's semi-recent after the meditation retreat, which is, it's pretty sweet also. It's like you can fly around and do just cool stuff. But you can also use that to just chat with people from history and just, like I had like a doku with like Miyamoto Musashi that chilled with Tesla in the dream. So you can control that. And you can wake up feeling like I'll have a big win in my dream. I wake up and it's like, oh, I won. Then I start my day, which is, my day is structured due to unstructured. So I have my set morning routine, I have my set night routine, but the middle is kind of the free flowing day. Again, with 2 companies, different calls, different tasks. It's like, I think for me, it just has to be that way. And that's how I work best.
Oh, and what's a book that you've read that's, you know, had a really big effect on you? There's always that one book that sticks with you. I have mine, but I'd be interested to hear what yours is.
Yeah, for entrepreneurship, the most beneficial book for me is probably Anti-Fragile by Nicholas Taleb. Spirituality is a New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. So those are kind of the ones that kind of like, when you read something, it just kind of interests you, and then you start reading more stuff on those contents. Those two have been very beneficial for me. In terms of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, you got to go with Andreas Antonopoulos as if you're a new user, just read Internet of Money or Bitcoin Standard. And right now, the two most influential books in my life are the Three Initiates by Kai Babylon. It's written by some guy named Hermes, which I view as like the Giga Chad of our human race. So he's the founder of Hermeticism, and a lot of the Freemason, all that secret society stuff, all those rules are kind of based on his teachings. He eventually became known as Thoth from the Egyptian mythology. And another cool one I just recently read is Reality Transurfing by some Russian dude. So that's basically, you can select your own reality, you can select your own timeline, you can run from there. It's cool. That one's a long one, but it's interesting because this was like a brilliant Russian physicist who took the full turn and went full spiritual and writes about both. So yeah,
there's a lot of books. Yeah, I've heard about reality transurfing before, and now I've heard about it again for the countless amount of times. I'm definitely gonna have to read it now because I am interested in the concept of it. It does sound very interesting.
Oh, it's a good one, and that's exactly how most of the stuff happens. It's like, for example, a meditation retreat. My friend recommended to me, and at first he recommended, it's like, okay, I can't just take 10 days off. I did do that, but then authentically I heard about like 2 to 3 more times. And for me, it's like once I hear about 2 to 3 more times from like reputable source, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna deep dive. So I think that's kind of what just happened with reality transurfing.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look into that. So Eric, I've got one last question for you, and it's probably the easiest question I'll ask you all day, but every
artist.
no, genuinely, it's an easy question. I ask it to every guest, and it's the answer's unique to you, but it's, what is it about what you do that brings you the most joy?
It's really what I feel like, which my key to happiness is freedom. And with both companies, I'm free to do whatever I feel like. And with and that aligns with my goal of spreading positivity. So I can do whatever I want while benefiting the human race in many different ways. For ShopX, I think cryptocurrency, I think that fixes a big problem. And for dating, I think that helps people find love, which is obviously a good thing.
Where can the people find you online?
So the best place for ShopX is our website, shopx.co. Dating is dating.io. Or my personal Instagram is Eric D. McHugh. So again, I'm trying to be helpful. So if you ever want to talk shit, just reach out if any questions or just kind of like chit chat, just shoot me a DM and I'll try to get back to you.
Thank you for listening to People Explained. New episodes come out every Monday. We would appreciate it if you gave us a review on Apple Podcasts and shared this episode with a friend.